Welcome to Connections in Flight. I'm Erika Paramore, a licensed psychotherapist navigating meaningful conversations with
Dr. Sarah Mizuguchi. I'm a physician with zero medical advice for this podcast,
but lots of good conversations. We're not actually doing therapy today or in these episodes, but we will be providing psychological insights, concepts, and strategies to help you better understand yourselves as well as connect to others.
And we'll be doing that through a word for every episode,
which represents the topic of the day.
And the topic of the day is struggle.
Struggle. Working with Sarah, who brought this whole idea of a podcast up for us to work on together, was a very new concept for me, but I've loved watching clients come through my office over the years and noticing how much we all have in common. Themes about health and family, career, friendships, dreams, kind of how we're navigating where we go next in our lives. This whole idea of being able to use my voice outside of an office with one person and reaching women specifically, kind of similar ages between 35 and 55, have a lot in common. And I think that we're all learning how to navigate our own lives.
I consider myself an achiever, but when I turned about 40, I realized that there were some problems and issues in my personal life and the way that I am and my lack of communication and my lack of reaching out for support that I needed some help with. So I spent about 3 years doing just kind of batshit crazy things. I sold my house, I quit my job, I dyed my hair platinum blonde, I quit another job. And then one day I just kind of realized probably what I need is therapy. And very serendipitously, Erika and I were having a dinner, and I had been on this search for something to do because I had just quit my last job. And I thought to myself, wow, I really want to help people. I mean, I am a doctor. It's what I feel like I've been put on this planet to do. And all of a sudden I had this idea, oh my God, I could help people with Erika because Erika helps me so much when I see her. And I mentioned it to her, and we had this epiphany of how we could talk about the things that we talk about, open it up, listen to other people, get other people's amazing stories, because a lot of people have similarities of all the things that we all go through, and we just need to talk about them in a supportive, caring environment.
And Sarah, I love what you just said about wanting to help people, wanting to reach people. And Sarah and I are friends, but we don't get to see each other that often because we're both moms and professionals and are being pulled in a million different directions. But one thing that just absolutely makes me get so tickled when I remember this point in our conversation about connecting in flights, and that you fly too high to the sun and sometimes I can fly too low to the ground, but together we can create this balance that I think we're all striving for in our lives, where we're gonna all, there's times when I fly too high to the sun and I'm sure you're too low to the ground, but being able to know where we are in that space and then find connection to help create balance. That's how I would define our friendship for over the years. And it's really meaningful.
For sure.
We're going to be covering a lot of different topics: health, family, career, friendships, dreams, to help us kind of figure out where we are in our own lives, as well as help you learn about your own pathways and connect to yourselves to help you navigate your flight. We're all hitting a reset button, and we just want to be able to connect to each other and learn from each other.
I want to hit a reset, and I want to hit a start button as well. I'm one of those people that COVID just really shook me to my core. I want to almost start it all over again from my entire thinking of how I work and live and connect with people. COVID was such a weird time, such a slow time. I had so much time to sit with myself that I realized there were a lot of personal and interpersonal failures going on with me. And coming out of COVID, my existence that had led to COVID, I realized needed to go away. And I wanted to just basically kind of start all this over of how I was functioning. All these thoughts zinging around in my head. I needed really someone to help me clarify them and put them in intelligent words coming out of my mouth instead of just letting them bounce off my inner skull.
Well, and you bring up a good point, Sarah. As a therapist, people come in to talk about things, and I have the privilege and honor to see the different themes that we're all talking about, but sometimes we don't really understand it till we put it into words, or we hear somebody else put that thing into words, and then all of a sudden we feel a chill go through our body. I feel like when you and I talk as friends, sometimes that happens just because you ask a question or have this wonderful curiosity. And, when we start putting it together in a rhythm, it's like all of a sudden I have as much understanding about myself from a question you've asked for yourself. And we hope to bring that to listeners too, because I think we've had some alone time, and that can feel lonely, or that can feel really powerful.
Yes, the alone time for me is super powerful. I love alone time. I generate from alone time, and having more alone time the past 2 to 3 years. I mean, this is super embarrassing, but I started reading books for the first time just for fun, because I did feel this inner turmoil, this inner calling that I did want something to change. I did start reading. I guess they would be generally lumped under self-help books. And I will say, for the first time, I was like, oh my God, these people are amazing. They're able to literally take all of these thoughts and emotions and put them into words, and they make perfect sense. Shortly after, I discovered podcasts, and that was just a can of worms that I did not even see coming. The hearing people talk real life about all these beautiful stories, where they've been, where they want to go, and of course, where they are now. Podcasts definitely changed my life.
Well, and we really hope this podcast can offer a voice to those out there that are kind of figuring out, where do I fly next? Or is it even safe to fly? What does that even mean? We're going to invite listeners to almost be a witness to some of the therapeutic process. Yes, Sarah and I are friends, but we're looking at this through a therapeutic lens, as for not only the therapist, but also for the client. Sarah, in this case, is the role, or the listener.
I need a shit ton of therapy.
Because we hope that it's not just about Sarah's story, but it's some of the questions and the way we think about these themes that will hopefully provide a lot of insight for you as listeners.
For sure.
We're going to also make sure throughout these episodes that we give you a takeaway. It's not just, okay, we're going to entertain you with our lives and our questions, but I'm really going to work hard at providing links to resources. And we realize that not everybody has access to therapy. There's a million reasons why. There are barriers financially, it's availability to find a therapist. Can be a question of, is my issue too big to deal with, that it's scary to even think about going down that tunnel? Or is my problem or my situation important enough? Maybe I'm just overreacting. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. So we want to kind of give you some perspective of the things that are safe to talk about and ways to talk about them. So every episode of our podcast, we're going to have a word of the day, and it may not be a word that you expect in the way that we're going to be talking about it. It's going to be an everyday word that's not always necessarily clinical, but we think that it's going to help understand ourselves better by interpreting what the word means to us. So this episode, we've chosen the word struggle, which may sound like a negative word that you want to just turn everything off right now, but bear with us because we have a lot of positive interpretations and understandings of where this word sort of leads our conversations and helps us develop new ways to think about ourselves. In addition, we want to be able to offer each episode a takeaway or some action strategy that everybody can remember to use, that can be a helpful, sometimes simple, sometimes more complex, but in this case, pretty straightforward form of mindfulness, which is the phrase grounding. We'll get into the more specifics and concrete steps that kind of define this. We want people to have sort of something to do, not just in the moment, but between episodes, with a number of different words that we talk about. But in this episode, we're talking about the word struggle and the action technique of grounding.
Struggle. I'm on the struggle bus, Erika.
We're going to get you grounded, sister.
Struggle seems like a word that is not light. It's a heavy word. It's not like I'm in a panic. It's not like it's in and out. It's here and there. It's with you. It's weighing you down. It's like I'm getting through mud. It's like quicksand.
And it involves movement.
Yes.
It's always moving through something uncomfortable.
It seems like a very physical word to me. A word that you're trying to, again, get through the quicksand, get through the mud with your big boots. It's sucking you down, but you got to keep going.
to achieve the growth, right? Okay.
To get through the struggle. Off the struggle bus. Let's take off.
Let's
Ready to
take
go,
off.
Erika?
Okay, here we go. Fasten your seatbelt. Can you tell me a little bit about like what comes up for you when you think of that word in your life?
What came up for me for struggle was my daily, weekly, yearly, I think maybe my whole life, I've had a really hard time being in the moment. I really struggle. And when I hear the word struggle, I think of something that is cumbersome almost on a daily process. Like it's kind of on your shoulder. It's always weighing you down. It's not going to knock you to the floor. It's not going to take you out, but it's there. It's like an Achilles, like it's your Achilles heel. It's something that nags at you. You know it's there, but you're not really doing anything to change it. And for me, it's always been being in the moment. I'm either thinking about the past or I'm thinking about the future. And then I feel so bad that I'm not in the moment. When I try to be in the moment, I'm just depressed.
I love what you're saying about that. Your awareness of the word itself and what it feels like. When you think about your connection to the word struggle, that nagging feeling, you did a great job describing the weight that must feel like. If you think of yourself, your entire self, and you're saying, all right, how do I understand what struggle is for me? If you break yourself down into these three components, your thoughts, your behaviors or your physical body, and your feelings, those three categories of yourself will help give you so much insight and understanding about what that all means. So you were talking about like, what does struggle mean? You described how it felt, the
Sludge.
weight,
It feels like sludge.
the nag.
The nag.
And then you said, and I feel bad about myself, or then I start to feel bad.
For
So
sure.
is the feeling bad a feeling of discomfort, or is there threat, or is the quote unquote feeling bad a belief that there's something wrong with me?
Probably that there's something wrong with me. This thought of not being able to enjoy where I am at that point in my life, I think I can trace this back almost my entire existence. I was constantly looking to what was next. When I was in high school, I got to get to college. When I'm in college, and then when I'm in college, everything's going to be great. And then when I was in college, oh my God, I got to get in medical school. When I get in medical school, everything's going to be great. Oh, I got to get into the residency that I want. When I get in residency, everything will be great. So at what point will things be great? When I'm dead?
Great question.
I mean, when are things going to be great?
What's important to you when you think about what being present would do for you? What's the value in that for you?
I don't understand why when you're going through something difficult, whether it be you're trying to get a job or you are trying to do great things, you're trying to make your life better, you're trying to get into a school, you're trying to get into a college, it doesn't matter. But why can't we enjoy the ride when that's happening? And why is it everything so much better in retroflexion? And then I think, oh, God, this was so hard. Things were so much better then. But they actually weren't. When I was back then, I was trying to get to where I am now. And now that I'm here, I can't wait to go next. But I know when I get there next.
So it sounds like you're aware of the behavior part of this, where you're always doing something more to try to achieve the next thing or the feeling you want to have when you get there.
Right.
But your beliefs are there's something blocking actually allowing yourself to feel during the process, right?
Right.
So there's something in your beliefs of either I'm not enough or, when I achieve this, then I'll have value. I'm just curious if you're aware of what that belief might be that prevents you from allowing to sink into the feeling of enjoying the now.
I have absolutely no idea.
That's why we're talking. So when we're talking, and this is going to be a little bit more neuroscience-y, which I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do have an understanding of how the brain, certain areas of the brain connect to our nervous system, and that can teach us a lot about when we don't know.
Right.
And so it feels like for me, when I'm asking you a question here and you're using logic and language and all those linear words. That's all like frontal cortex stuff. But where you're describing the frustrations or like the drive during those years of all those achievements, that's not in the frontal cortex. That's more in the limbic system. That's the part of our brain that's all about emotion and about, that's where trauma is stored, right? So what's driving you is almost this fear response of, I've got to do more, right? What kind of culture do we live in? I got to do more. It's rewarded. So we're getting kind of this mixed message of more to get what kind of feeling? Here I am. But that doesn't happen. So we keep doing more. We must be failing. It's so subconscious.
But do you think when you hear people talk about this, why I want to do more, I still want to do more. I want to fly close to the sun. I don't want that to stop. I don't even know who I would be without that, but I want to enjoy it.
You want to enjoy what part of that?
I just want to enjoy knowing that I'm trying to do something instead of just, I guess, being driven by fear. That I just want to enjoy the ride.
What I think the part of the ability to enjoy it is to understand what the fear is about. If it feels good to you to get close to the sun,
yes,
is that because you've subconsciously said, "Oh, I've got to do that to be okay in the world. I got to get more. I got to be more. I got to be." I mean, there is an adrenaline rush that comes with driving ourselves to the point of collapse, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we read our nervous systems saying, okay, we gotta land, take a little layover here so we can fly again. How do you trust to know? And if the layover in this case is just being able to kind of sink into the now,
right?
Is being able to enjoy that something that you want?
Yes, I want to enjoy the whole flight, honestly. When you get on a plane, and this used to piss me off. Oh, enjoy your flight. I can't enjoy this flight. I got to get there. I'm not enjoying
I gotta
this
just
flight.
take off. Yeah.
Like, how could anybody enjoy the flight? Like, we got to get somewhere. We're going to land. I'll enjoy the landing, and I'll enjoy getting there.
Do you know what's interesting? I don't know if there's research about this, but anecdotally, when I have clients coming in for EMDR therapy about their fear of flying, which is a true phobia, do you know the worst part of the flight that they describe?
Well, I've had that phobia. Oh my God.
What part?
We're going to multiple episodes on that one.
What part of the flight seems to be the most stressful for you?
For me, it was getting on the plane and taking off.
And then they tell you to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then there must be something wrong with me because I can't enjoy it.
Because
right?
I can't enjoy it.
Yeah. The takeoff and the landing. It's usually the takeoff.
The takeoff.
Because it's the, here we go. And now is the transition of me being in control on the ground.
Right.
To really surrendering.
Right.
Right. Sometimes it's interesting. The people that have the most stressful part or the highest symptoms of anxiety with flight phobias, notice that at the landing are almost more worried about what they do when they get there.
This is honestly fascinating because my phobia of flying was so bad for a few years. I missed multiple vacations. I got off a plane one time when they announced the doors are closing. And I raised my hand and said, I got to get off this plane. Mm-hmm. I got off the plane. Now I've got it under control. But for me, for the landing, and this is weird, I just would say to myself, whatever happens now, I'm okay with it. It's that takeoff. It was the takeoff for me.
Wow. Can you apply that same helpful belief or phrase? Say it again. Whatever happens, I'm okay. Say it again.
I was at peace with it. I don't know. There's zero medical evidence for this, but I just told myself I was out of adrenaline or out of whatever pathway that I just expended it all. It was like maybe the word is surrender. I just surrendered to being on that plane and
you grounded yourself.
Maybe that's what it was.
So it's interesting. One of the techniques, so simple, but there's a beautiful, we call it a resource in trauma therapy, which is sort of a helpful way to develop like more of an adaptive process when we're feeling anxious or feeling stressed. And it's called grounding, literally.
I've never heard of this.
And if we use it when we want to be more mindful or more present in the now, if being present is important to you, but the drive to keep moving forward is conflicting, right? You're getting that mixed message. The grounding technique is for you to be present, which means pause. You're like in proximity to yourself. And the mindfulness process is to just notice in your body what you're feeling, like not necessarily emotions, but if you notice that your heart is racing.
Sweaty palms.
Then do
Sweaty
like a
palms.
little, sweaty palms. Do a scan of your body from head to toe, just noticing, not judging, not storytelling, just exactly sweaty palms, maybe a little jittery, maybe weak knees. Go all the way to the ground, grounding. Notice the feet, your feet are on the floor. The floor is connecting you like a tree with its roots into the ground. Imagine underneath your feet, there are roots growing into the ground that are stabilizing you, even if you're shaky on the top of the surface. If you're sitting in a chair, picture the chair holding you.
Wow.
It is a powerful way of feeling secure in the world in your nervous system. Because it's obviously like the chair's holding you. That makes sense.
Right.
But that mindfulness, it switches out of the looping rumination, and it's like a direct signal to your body that I'm safe.
What is looping rumination? I feel like that's something I definitely do.
When you get into the flight and they're like, enjoy your flight. Here we go. The loop of I'm not okay, whatever that is. Oh, this is not going to work. Or and then
we're going to crash.
You get so flooded, and your body is. Let's face it, it's kind of doing its job, right? You're up in a metal tube with someone else driving you in the air. Of course, it's not safe. In terms of your survival instinct, your brain now knows logically the statistics of flights and safety and all the things they have to do to be safe. But your amygdala is like, holy shit, this human being is going into the air with someone else in control. This is not about the plane. It's about feeling safe in the world when I'm not in control.
So I want to be in control.
Well, yeah.
Should I be a pilot? Should I go see, this is where I immediately go straight to the sun. And I'm like, well, I'll become a pilot. I'll find myself everywhere.
Right. It's another drive, right? Another program you got to learn.
I'm not sure that's healthy.
No, well, it's not about health. It's not useful. It doesn't work that way. The way you're going to feel more okay is with a message of I can handle this. The same thing you say when you land. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily a surrendering, but you're letting go of the control, learning how to recognize where it's safe to let go of control, not only in your mind, but in your body. That's what we're doing. Grounding techniques help further install that adaptive neural network that says, I'm safe in the world. You can do this on the plane.
Right.
You can't really be grounded, but right. It's a way of connecting just by noticing parts of your body. It's the same thing meditation is. It shifts you out of the frontal cortex thought loop and brings you in a different place that will help you regulate.
So I want to circle back to something that you said when you first started talking about this grounding technique. Can you just honestly explain and tell the difference between being mindful and being present?
Well, in order to be mindful, you have to be present. So what present, and you use this word about I want to be more present. You want to be intentional about what you're connecting to. So earlier when I said, okay, your thoughts, your behaviors, your behaviors is also physical body, which is kind of what we're using it today for. And your emotions, just noticing them, that's being mindful. My hand shaking, that's mindfulness.
Just knowing what's happening in the now.
Yep, you're noticing in the now, especially in yourself. Where am I? I'm in the chair. Noticing with your 5 senses, just what's in the space right now. That helps your nervous system know you're safe in the world.
Because you'd have to slow down to even do those things.
And you're accessing a different part of your brain that doesn't get into the loop of the story of we're going to crash.
The rumination.
Yep. Instead, by noticing, the warmth of a blanket or your sweatshirt that you're wearing right now, the comfort of that, and just pausing, we say holding space for that.
Ooh, I love
that. That is like a direct hug to your nervous system. And if you can add the belief of right now, I'm okay. It sounds like obvious, but the okay is not everything's fine. It's like I'm safe. And when you're flooded with that, like heart, sweaty palms, all of that, that's a signal. I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
Right.
But it's not in the now. It's like, if I don't do something, be in control, let's say,
Right.
fly this plane, then I'm not okay. But if you reconnect to that part of yourself that's true, that right now I am okay, then everything shifts in your nervous system.
And that's mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a buzzword.
It is. And it sounds overwhelming. It sounds like you have to be this like Buddhist or like a meditator expert, but it's just about noticing.
I want to be like the best at it.
Of course you do. But it's all about intention, right? It's intention to be present with yourself.
In the now.
In
I like
the
that.
now.
I'm going to simplify to mindfulness as in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about being present or presence?
So present is being in the space, right? So if you're being mindful, you're being present in the now. So if I'm being present with you, I am here with you. Our connection with eye language, or like just even the attunement of your body language, I'm being present. If I'm looking at my phone while I'm in the same space with you, I'm not really being present. A presence is a real intention to connect.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this, because I read this somewhere and I really liked it, but I don't know that it's right. I had read something because I was trying to, at my last job, I was trying to pause before I said things.
Excellent.
Instead of just flying off, or just, I really wanted to speak with intention and carefully. So I started doing this thing where when somebody would just, piss me off, or I just would get feisty, I made myself in my head. Sometimes I might have been mouthing it, and I'm sure that looked super weird. But I would make myself count to 3 Mississippi. And I had read somewhere that in that space between a thought and an action is mindfulness.
I love that.
Do you think that that's
absolutely
true? I have to say, I'm not going to lie, that helped me at my job more than anything has maybe ever helped me.
But that is exactly when you started counting and using the words, you got out of that frontal cortex loop. You were just
Where did I go?
Well, you just shifted it, right? So the control you had over the counting, think about counting to sleep, counting the sheep. Like, why do we do that? It's like counting your breath. It brings you into a different place of awareness in your body that gives you a different kind of control over yourself.
So if not just me, but if you were to just, and it's not like these were fights, just maybe things I just wanted to speak more carefully to and or about or whatever. Where does it coming from if I just blurt something out that I may or may not regret? Is that my frontal cortex?
No. Is
that my fear?
Okay, so frontal cortex is all the L words. Okay, it's going to be language. It's going to be logic. It's going to be linear.
Executive.
Executive, exactly. It's also the newest part of our brain. So our brains are developing the frontal cortex until like we're around roughly 25 years old. So as parents, we have to be our children's frontal cortex.
Yes.
They can't, we can't, it's like putting them behind the wheel of a car when they're 8 because they're good kids.
Keeping them alive.
Well, and being they can be alive to a degree, but it's like we can see a good kid and be like, yeah, we should get them a phone, or they can do that. But that part of their brain that's able to see around corners, or that abstract thinking, is still developing. So once we're around 25, we might get a whole different kind of understanding and be able to put words to it or use logic that we couldn't do when we were 15. And then we beat ourselves up for that. Like, I was so stupid. How did I not know that? So we get into these, it's like not just the knowledge that we have to control the language, but then the secondary shaming language we sometimes do because we didn't have that then. When we understand that we didn't have that part of our brain then.
Oh my God, am I 15?
No. So here's the other part I'm going to say, because I was answering that first part of the question.
But
oh
my God,
when
it sounds really familiar.
No, but when you said you blurted out, right? There's this universal principle. I don't know where I heard this, but it's always resonated with me. And I even do this in my kitchen with my hands. Like, the higher the emotion, the lower our IQ.
Oh God.
And the vice versa. So if we're logical, we know to take the 1 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, then our logic and our thoughts
I was evening
keep
them.
our emotions at bay. We're not so flooded. The limbic system is like that midbrain, but then we have the amygdala, that like core. It's right by our spinal cord. It's that's a reptilian brain people talk about. A zebra can like get here, rustle in the grass, and bolt and just go back to grazing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that. We're like, how did I not know that was there? We like shame ourselves
Right.
for being stupid that we ran or should have known to run faster. Like, so that's that part of our brain, that reptilian brain, that's so survival based. It's why we don't say, a car's coming. Should I turn left or right here? We just go. Right.
Right.
So if we live in that space, that's why our adrenaline is like tapped out. It has to reserve that for when it needs survival. Right. That midbrain is when you're in the office and someone says something that makes you want to blurt.
Mm-hmm.
That fight or flight response, that sympathetic nervous system that says potential threat, potential threat.
Right.
So understanding what the threat is to you is going to help you in your thoughts stay ahead of it, so you don't have that emotional outburst. You have like the survival response in our body because something in you is being threatened. But if you don't know what that thing is, you can't get ahead of it logically.
Right.
But that's why if you're upset with your children, do not punish them until 24 hours. And that like balance settles and you can be more clear-headed.
Right. Because you're not thinking with emotion.
Correct. You're not reacting with emotion, especially if it's in threat. It's going to be impulsive. It's going to be aggressive. But that's not a bad thing when it's appropriate. That's what gets us out of danger. But if we have all this perceived danger, like if I don't get the A on the test, that's not technically a survival thing. But if we told ourselves, if I don't get into this college, I'm unlovable or I'm going to be a failure in life, then it feels like survival.
But I mean, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but like we need that.
We need what part?
I want people to be like, if I don't get in this thing, I'm a loser. Like, is that not okay? To be like, how do you stay high achieving and be kind to yourself? I guess in those
Great question.
I mean, how do you need to feel the threat of failure?
Okay, what if it's not about threat of failure, but it's more intention for meaning making? Like, I want to be really good at this job because it means something to me.
My lizard brain just I can't really get my mind around that.
But that's why it's not about the lizard brain. It's about the thinking of like, what's meaningful, what's important. That's what we're practicing here with your thoughts. What's the belief? I want this degree. Why is it important to you?
Right.
Not what threat is there if you don't do it.
I will say, I do go straight to I'm a failure. I don't think I have realized that about myself. There's really sometimes there's not an in between. Like, oh, this just didn't work out. It's more like, I suck.
And in what ways, let's just look at this with kindness. In what ways do you think that belief of I'm a failure, like how does that protect you? Like, what do you think that's protecting? How has that ever been something that's helped you?
Well, I think it's helped me get to where I am, to be honest. I mean, it's not like I'm even close to the stars, but I have a successful career that I love. It's my passion. I absolutely love it. I do think I needed that drive.
And you just said that a couple seconds ago. Like I do think people need to have the threat to achieve. So if that belief of I need to fear the failure in order to be successful, maybe that's the part we can let go. It's not the fear of the failure. Find another way that's meaningful and probably still helpful. I mean, it's got to be useful or you won't use it, to feel drive because you care about something.
Oh,
right? Not because you're so scared to death. But I think understanding that you're right. Sometimes, if we think about security, so we're on the plane, what do they say? Put your safety belt on, right? That's a safe form of security. We all need to have a seatbelt, right? But if we get so much armor because this plane is going down, now we have shame, we have aggression, we have anger, we have heart palpitations, we have all these things. That's so much weaponry that you're useless in battle, right? Like it's too much it's overprotection.
Wow.
So learning how to differentiate between like the right amount of armor to protect yourself, the seatbelt, or all the weaponry, the cannonballs, the grenades, all of that, you're so exhausted carrying that all around that you can't even fight the battle. Like, so I think if the failure is part of the overprotection,
Wow.
maybe the care is the seatbelt.
So I got to go back one more time because I do like what you said. Because, I mean, sometimes when I hear all this mindful stuff, I'm just like, well, how do they get anything done? I mean, if you're mindful all the time.
20 seconds, sister. It takes 20 seconds.
But let's
to notice, to pause. Would you do the 1, 2, 3?
Yes.
That's mindfulness.
But it's not like we can live there all the time.
No one said you should.
See, I thought that you had to be there all the time.
So we're going to talk about in another episode forms of distorted thinking, which we do. There's 10. That all or nothing thinking is exhausting.
But so it's okay to be like, okay, I'm just going to go to my mindfulness, my 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, when I need to. It's a weapon. It's a good weapon.
It could, it's
like
not a weapon, it's armor.
I like the thought of having weapons.
Is your seatbelt a weapon?
The seatbelts, I'm not even sure they're useful.
It's,
so
oh God. We're getting lots of episodes coming. No, but seriously, I think it is hard to know, like when to trust in the moment, especially like what is really going to protect me, right? We're all figuring that out.
Yes.
And we have to think about that, like what's important to me and what's really protecting me and where is it safe to put some of the armor down so I can connect to the thing that is important to me.
I am obsessed with what you said a few minutes ago about keeping the drive. Because I don't want to lose it's not like
You don't have to lose the drive. You just got to make it effective.
Right. I never want to lose my drive, but I would like to find a way to maybe, like you said, make it not so all or none about my personal failure. Mm-hmm. And somehow work that towards my drive based on my passions. Back to the connections in flight. I do want to enjoy the flight, physically, metaphysically, metaphorically, all the things. Like I do want to be on the flight.
I have a question for you because I know you can do this.
Tell me.
I want you to just pause. Think about a time you've been on an airplane. Okay. You've looked at the window and you have felt a brief moment of utter awe.
Okay, well, I do have to say a disclaimer here. For me to get on flights for a few years,
I was knocked
out on Xanax, so I'm not like saying I'm super proud about that. But there were many, many flights I don't really honestly remember super well, but I'm able to now fly without them. I have a whole flight routine, a whole pre-flight routine that's got to be healthy.
Awesome.
Got to be mentally healthy.
Can't wait to hear.
So there have been some moments, and I don't, many people say this. God, I even heard Oprah say this. I'm not trying to copy Oprah, but I did hear her say that part of the flight where you break through the clouds, if you're flying on a gray day and you feel like my whole world is gray, or it's a gray day, I'm gray, the weather's gray, this whole city's gray. And then you're on the plane and you break through the clouds and it's perfect. And I have this feeling this amazing feeling that the world is bigger than me. The world is bigger than where I just came from. And I have to say, I do love that feeling.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I have to say, like, I have chills up and down hearing you say that because I know that moment exactly. I've never heard anyone put words to that. And that's what you're after. And that's the vulnerability that you just said of like where it's safe to let go. The world is bigger.
Oh, it's huge.
And I'm not responsible for making the sun come up every day. Hallelujah. Right. Guess what? You're not in control of that. And that's a good thing. So even the perspective of where is it safe to put the armor down? Where is it safe for me to let go of control?
Right.
And find serenity in that instead of fear.
Right. And I'm looking, I guess I think it is something about being in your 40s, but I would like more serenity or just having that feeling that I just described.
Which is connected to that core belief of right now, I'm okay.
Ooh.
Right? It's so simple.
I just got chills. I am okay. Like right now, I'm great.
But notice that throughout your day.
Okay.
Notice like when you can connect to that awareness. That's really the word, is the awareness. Right now, I'm okay. And the more you look for that, the more it will resonate, where it won't have to be so conscious because your body will just connect to that, where it won't need your frontal cortex to do that for you.
I love that.
The story you're telling yourself. Stories are always about what's going to happen or what's already happened.
Yes.
When you're noticing doing the grounding technique, the scan of your body, which you're noticing physically, it could be the hole in your jeans. It doesn't have to be this deep, profound insight. But when you're bringing it into the now with your 5 senses, you're shifting out of that future story, past story, and into the now. And that is resonating in your nervous system.
I love it. I love this. I'm doing it.
I want to know what your techniques were that from going where you were on the phobic plane ride to really coming up with a routine. Can you share a little bit of that? I'm fascinated.
I'd love to share it. So, okay, some of this sounds maybe silly, but one of the things that I would get anxious about is the weather. Like if it was going to be a stormy day and I was going to be flying out, I mean, of course it couldn't be just like a little storm. It had to be I was like picturing like tornado winds.
All or nothing.
Right, all or nothing. So I don't watch any weather. I don't look at my phone at the weather for about 24 hours.
So you're relying on the pilot to do that.
I tell myself these people are well trained.
Excellent.
They have more than just like weatherchannel.com, which is what I'm going to. They know how to avoid turbulence. They talk to the other pilots who flew the path before them. So I stopped looking at the weather at least 24 hours before. I just do all the simple things that I'm not doing right before I have to leave. That would just make me anxious because I wasn't packed. So I pack before. I try to avoid early morning flights. For me, I just know because then I won't sleep well.
Good for you.
Thinking that I'm going to oversleep. So I try to take all past mid-morning flights. I try to exercise. So if I take a mid-morning or after, I know I can get a little workout in, which maybe I don't or do have an addiction to exercise as part of my...
Good to know. I'll make a note. We'll come back to that another episode.
There's way worse addictions, Erika.
No, but that exercise is also releasing some of that stress hormone.
So I try to have like a very healthy morning. I stick to my routine. Always get to the airport early so I don't have any freak out moments that I'm going to be stuck in security and that's just going to cause anxiety, a legitimate anxiety. Then I weigh in once I'm through security, how I'm doing. Of course, this all sounds great, but there are other things going on in my life that maybe I'm bringing some anxiety with them. So I check in.
Good for you to notice that.
I do allow myself that space. I do check in, and if I do feel like I'm having extra anxiety, because my anxiety on planes has in the past manifested as a panic attack. I always have a couple of Xanax with me, and I know that they're there in my pocket, and I don't even always take them, but just knowing they're there gives me a great sense of security. So if I weigh in once I'm through security, and I know that the plane is not delayed, I'm going to say, I'm going to get on this plane and see how I'm going to do. But if I feel like I need to take one, I'm going to take one.
Love it.
So, I guess it's just basic health steps that I'm
doing. No,
doing.
You're doing so much already that I think you can apply these same concepts to the rest of your life. So here's what I heard you say. All of this, by the way, is beautifully under this umbrella of care. It's self-care. You're learning what is safe to let go of, the control of the weather, all of that.
Okay.
Right? But some of the overprotection armor is down because the pilot's got that. That's the serenity. And like, thank God I don't have to fly this plane. These people do. And the self-care of the exercise, the sleep, the breakfast, the self-talk, learn the care about the awareness of knowing yourself and what things trigger the anxiety, and then what things you can control when you pack, when you schedule a flight. All of that is that balance of recognizing what's in my control, and you use the word routine, which I love. It's not like I have to be in control. This is my routine. This is what I do that's helpful.
Right.
Filled with care, and where it's safe to let go of control. And all of that comes back to, and I'm okay. Right now I'm okay.
It did take me years to get there. Oh,
but you did it.
I actually forgot something super important that I do.
What's that?
I look at the pilots. I even make sure I take a good hard look at them.
Connections in flight. It creates a security. I'm not kidding.
No,
That's beautiful.
I've never told anybody this. I look at the pilots and I tell myself, those people look like they want to effing live. They don't want to die. They want to live. Pilots are very healthy, robust people. And I can put it, if they're young, I'm like, they're feisty. They know all the newest advances. They're fresh out of training. I like that. If they're older, I'm like, probably flew in a war, probably can do loops in this plane. So no matter how they look, they are badasses.
And you know what I love about that is it's not like, well, they're so fearful of failure that they're going to get this plane there. Like, it's not a failure-driven thing. It's they want to live.
I just think of them as I think of me and my career, and I'm like, they want to do the best damn job. They want to do well.
But isn't that a much more invigorating, calming belief than they're just afraid of failure? Like, you want there to be some meaningfulness in that, with like care about living their life, not just not crashing.
They may have a party to go to tonight. I mean, they've got stuff going on.
And have fun with that.
Right.
Like but that's the same belief you can use for yourself when you are driven so hard to get to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Find the meaningfulness. What are you after when you get there?
Right.
Not just to avoid the threat of being a failure.
Right. Enjoy the flight.
Enjoy the flight. I think it's ironic that, I mean, we did not talk about this even going into this. I had no idea that flying was a phobia for you. And here is our whole connections in flight.
I love it. I love talking about it. I love where struggle took us. I literally have so many words that I want to talk about.
Well, and I would love to talk about those with you. We're going to have to use those for future episodes. I really do. I'm as curious to hear from any of you out there who have a word that comes up for you that you notice or want to understand better about yourself. We value learning from you all as much as hopefully you're learning from us. Look in our show notes for any further information.
Erika, have you thought about next podcast word?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
No.
Oh.
No, but if somebody out there has a word that they would like to hear us talk about, please feel free to email us, leave comments, feedback. We're always curious. We always enjoy conversations and would love to hear back from you. Please feel free to email us, leave feedback or comments. So thanks so much for listening to us today on Connections in Flight. Please be advised that the information discussed on this podcast is not professional therapy. If you are triggered or activated, please don't be afraid to seek professional help.
Ample. Hee hee.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, that's on. Don't touch that.